MAKHOSI, welcome back to my channel. This is Dr. Tesh. Welcome. If you have not subscribed, please do subscribe. And so this is it's probably going to be a part 2. All right, remember I taught about sacred placenta, all right, the second soul. This is going to be the part 2. All right, that is piggybacking off of the second soul. All right, so remember I mentioned in the previous video, the person who is born under this dynamic does not go through a normal initiation. If you are called to be a healer, your initiation is going to be very different. Am I making this a blanket for everyone? No. There are some people who complete traditional initiations, all right, but then still need to go through the soul or the secret initiation, right? Because there are certain things that are supposed to happen, right, for people who are born with the second soul, all right? And this is why there are different initiations. So we see people coming out and saying, I'm a self-initiate, I'm a self-initiate, all right, I'm being initiated by my angels and guides, or I'm a tongo. This is not a new concept. There is nothing new under the sun. So being initiated, right, in your dreams was something that was known, right, throughout even ancient KEMET. There are so many different types of spiritual initiations, all right, but this initiation is for people who were born with the second soul, or a twin soul, or a twin flame, because there are certain things that you are going to encounter, all right, through your soul evolution or through your soul journey. And so this is where Litwaso La Moya comes in, which is very different from a traditional initiation. There is a traditional initiation. In fact, there are several traditional initiations depending on which tradition you initiate in. All right, in the South African context, there's CAMAGU, there's Thokoza, there's MAKHOSI. All right, you can initiate to the Indian cultures, you can initiate into Buddhism, so many things. All right, there's so many different types of spiritual initiations. All right, but this one that I'm talking about is the soul initiation. So in ancient Kemet, the guardians of the sacred initiation was Khonsu. Remember I talked about Khonsu. He is the guardian of the sacred placenta, right? And also the guardian of what? The moon. Guardian of the moon, right? The guardian also of healing. So the sacred initiation in ancient Kemet would be guarded by who? Khonsu and Thoth. All right, so they had two different functions, and I'll explain, right, going throughout my video, how they guarded the initiation and how the initiation was supposed to happen. So remember back in the days, they had temples, not necessarily churches, right? They had temples, and which were the holy temples, which were the spiritual meeting places and sacred spaces. So people who were supposed to go through a soul initiation or a spirit initiation, which is also called the 7 sacred dream initiation, would then enter these temples, right? And this is how these initiations would be performed. These temples were built in specific ways, all right, that they could actually connect to what? The, let's say, the chakras of the earth, and this would help the initiate sort of like evoke dreams, all right? And through the dream state, the initiate would be able to connect what? To the dream realm or to the gods, all right? This is also what we call Amatongo, the higher level ancestors, all right? Amatongo, which are able to come through the dream state. All right, so these people would basically go into these temples and they would sleep and receive messages from the gods and see very specific things. So there's a very sort of specific sequence in which these things happen. So people who are going on their soul initiation, all right, are going to go through very specific things. As I was going through this list, I was taking it, I was like, yeah, this happened. This happened. This is how I know that I was actually going through the soul initiation. The great initiation, or the 7 sacred dreams, belong to the inner mystery. All right, the teachings found across Kemet, they were also found across Nubia, and also integrated into other African mystery schools and lineages. All right, there are certain lineages in Africa that know about this type of initiation. So this thing called self-initiation is not new, guys. It's not new. Being initiated by your ancestors is a real thing. All right. But it's very different, because this initiation is an initiation of higher consciousness and also does not take place publicly. It's very internal. Very internal, very sacred. All right, so obviously now there are no temples. There are no temples anymore. All right, the temples have been destroyed. This is why now our ancestors are sort of initiating us where we are. Okay, at home, because there's very specific things that need to happen in the dream state, right, where amatongo all right, can reach you. Okay, so there are 7 sacred dreams, very sacred things that you are going to be seeing if you are someone who is called to go undergo this initiation. All right, so who goes under this type of initiation? Does everyone go undergo this type of initiation? No, it is the people who are called to initiate into higher levels of consciousness. It is a higher initiation. Not everyone is called to go through it, so not everyone is going to understand it. Many are called, few are chosen. Okay, so in the ancient Kemet, who could actually undergo this initiation? Only those people who had undergone purification. Guys, on your soul initiation, this is why, you know, our ancestors tell us to become celibate. You're going to be celibate for a long time, all right, because you need to successfully complete this initiation, and this initiation can only happen when you're in a pure state, in a purity state. So purity is the first thing. If you fail that test, number 2, having a stable life force. All right, so already somewhere along the line, the kundalini needs to be activated. So these people in ancient Kemet, they were prepared to be healers, seers, priestesses, priests, high priests, royal spiritual leaders. And not everyone passed this test. All right, some people were stopped during the 3rd or the 4th dream. Not everyone is going to make it. So many are called and few are actually chosen. It's not just about dreaming. All right, there are very specific things that are assessed right on this soul initiation, or molitwasomola semoya. The role of Khonsu, he is the guardian of the dream gate. Thoth is the one that actually records the soul's progress. So you are being monitored, all right, from higher levels. This is not just a thing. You are being monitored from higher levels, and if you don't comply, right, you can actually fail. You can fail. What are the 7 sacred dreams? All right, so these are the dreams in the traditional order. I don't know if they have to follow this specific order. All right, sometimes it doesn't have to happen in the sequence, but all of the dreams need to happen. Okay, so number 1, it is the dream of separation. If you go through my video of the dark night of the soul, all right, this is where I was experiencing this. Okay, because the dreams of separation speaks to what? The dying of the self, the dying of the ego, the dying of the flesh. There's a lot that's going to happen here, guys. I remember when I was going through the dark night of the soul, sometimes I'd open the Bible, right, and I would read the scriptures. Okay, and I remember there was this one day where I'd open the scripture, and then it talked about the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So I knew I was going through a death. Also, right, so you're gonna die to the earthly things, you're gonna die to the earthly desires, you're gonna die to yourself. You're not gonna recognize yourself. Some people lose cars, lose houses, lose jobs, lose money, lose everything. This is the death of the ego. Your attachment to this world is the first step of this initiation. Sometimes you could dream of yourself literally dying. You could dream of yourself being buried. This also links right to the dream of separation, separating yourself from what? The physical world. When you're going through soul initiation, it is the physical world, the physical you that needs to die in order for the spiritual you to be born, right? Okay. Not an easy stage. Some people contemplate suicide, some people end up mad, psychic attacks, guys. The initiation is not for the faint of heart. Okay, there's so many things that can go wrong because you don't understand what's going on in your life. You just see things falling apart, but at this time you are actually being initiated. All right, the second dream, right, which is the second initiation. All right, it is the dream of the double. The dream of the double. This is where the second soul comes in. This experience, guys, does not happen the same for everyone. Okay, it does not happen the same. We will not experience the same things, guys, on the spiritual journey. Not happen in the same sequence, does not happen in the same order, right? This is why we are here to share our experiences. How I experienced my twin flame journey is very different from another healer's. Of us, literally, we see our twin flames, right, in the dream, coming to introduce themselves or coming to talk to us about what? The healing journey. The flame is someone that you're not going to have contact with all the time. There is a reason for the separation. I've been separated from my twin, I think, over 12 years now. I have not seen the person in 12 years. However, the communication remained constant, right, throughout my healing journey. This is how I was able to differentiate between them being a twin, or is it a soulmate. A soulmate will not come and tell you about awakening, right? It's like one of the dreams that I had just after the reunion dream. I dreamed of my twin coming to tell me, all right, that he is going to awaken. So number one, I already know there has to be specific codes, guys. It's not just about dreaming of someone that you knew in your past or something. There are specific messages to let you know that this person is on a twin flame journey. I know where they are in their journey as well, because you guys are there to activate one another. And this is now where the journey sort of gets activated, all right, or you start meeting, right, your shadow self. Number three, the dream of judgment. So the dream of judgment, I think there's an ancient Kemetic symbol for this, right, where there's some scales, all right. So this one is where the heart gets weighed. Anything that is weighing you down, trauma, unforgiveness, things that you've not dealt with, people that you have not forgave, these things are going to be weighed, all right. This is why you have to let go of a lot of things, people that have hurt you. This is why, right, this healing is very holistic. You're healing all parts of you, mind, body, soul, right, on this journey. So the purpose of this dream is to purify intention. Okay, number four for me was the scariest. It was by far the scariest, guys. The dream of descent. I can only speak from my experience. I went into the underworld, all right. I just remember how the dream started. I was with a bunch of people. I could not see their faces. And then all of a sudden, I started descending in a very dark hole. Okay? So the dream of descent, it is the dream of the underworld. You'll see yourself maybe traveling through darkness. You see yourself traveling through the water. The dreams happen differently for everyone. All right? So this dream or this initiation is to dispel fear. And I held on for dear life, guys, as I descended, all right. And I remember at the end of that descent, then I entered a new reality, all right. So it was very similar to quantum leaping, quantum jumping. This dream is there to dispel fear, because on the spiritual journey, there's a lot of things that you're going to see, right, that are going to be new to you. So they have to dispel fear very quickly. Fifth dream is the dream of power. The dream of power. This is a dream that signifies that you've been given spiritual authority. What are the symbols that you can look out for? You can look out for very specific staffs. You can look out for crowns. You can look out for ankhs. Right? The ankh. That right there. You'll be given very specific things, all right, that symbolize spiritual authority. Okay. In my MAKHOSI dream, I dreamt of a high ascended goddess, right? She had a crown on her head, right? And they say the misuse of power here can actually lead to termination. So it's kind of like you are being assessed along the way. You are being assessed along each and every step, right? So remember in my twin flame video, I talked about what? The combination of the divine feminine and the divine masculine energies, all right? The dream of union. The dream of union. Again, this does not take place the same for everyone. Not everyone is going to have a dream of them being reunited, like as in a marriage setting, or in a setting where you're meeting your twin flame in the dream. Sometimes these things come in symbols. You might see intertwining of serpents, intertwining of energies, all right, but the whole purpose, the energetic sort of integration of the divine masculine and divine feminine energies, all right, there is a reason why the union, the sacred union, needs to happen, because there's some other things that need to take place after this. There's some other things that need to be activated. The seventh dream is the dream of return. Okay, the initiate then returns to the body fully, all right, and then a new name may be revealed. All right, so this is the last step. For people that are in the spiritual initiation, that's how you know that you've completed your initiation. There is a spiritual name, all right, that you need to be given, which is a sacred name, which is a name, right, that you'll use or you'll be using in your spiritual walk, or, you know, doing your spiritual things. obviously here they're speaking from the context of people that used to sleep in the temple, all right, where the initiate returns to the body fully, all right. So I'm not quite sure, maybe this happened over months, or it happened over years, all right, where people would initiate, right, in their sleep, all right, initiate in the temples, all right. So there are certain powers that people gain, right, after this type of spiritual initiation. The ability to dream walk, right. So dream walk, probably shifting between realities, healing your presence through presence just by you being there, all right. Why? Because you would have gone through a kundalini awakening, meaning that you are the energist here, all right. Enhance intuition and divination. Your psychic abilities are going to awaken. Protection from spiritual attacks. Remember, this shadow part of yourself is always with you, has been protecting you, guiding. It acts as a shield. The ability to guide others through these states. Why? Because now you know you've been through certain things, therefore you can come and talk about them. Clarity and alignment. This path is about alignment. People who are on the spiritual initiation, soul initiations, it is about alignment. And yes, there are 7 sacred dreams, but there's also some things, right, that you need to do in the physical. There's certain instructions that you are taking. It's not just a matter of dreaming, it's about taking instructions, right, and also aligning with what you are seeing in your dreams, right. Go there, do that, do this. That is how the journey goes. So self-initiation, it is real, and it has taken place over a very long time ago, dating back to the ancient Kemetic days, right. If you also read the story about Buddha, right, and how the Buddha actually initiated, you'll realize that he's also a self-initiate, and he went through the journey of self-initiation, right, in the Indian, the Hindu context, all right. So these things existed, guys, and they still exist today. There's nothing new under the sun. But the soul initiation is not for everyone. It's for those that are called to walk the path. Right, so we give thanks, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.